this lesson, we are going to talk about the factors that are affecting the distribution of the temperature. What do we mean by the factors that are affecting the distribution of the temperature? Is basically that what are the geographical and the physical factors that are playing a role in influencing the temperature. So basically we have firstly the latitude. The latitude, even though it is an imaginary line, it is basically the influence of the sun over the planet. The sun rays, for example, if we take the earth and the sun rays which are coming directly and hitting the earth are basically slanted when they come to these parts, because if a person is standing here, that means that he is having a slanted sun ray that is hitting. If a person is standing here, the sun rays are just grazing him. So this shows why the equatorial region, which is in the middle, has a very high temperature, and the polar regions which are here have a very low temperature. And that is the effect of latitude, which is basically the horizontal lines around the planet. So that is the effect on latitude. Now talking about the altitude. What happens is with the altitude is basically with increase of height, what we observe is that the temperature also increases, and the temperature decreases because of the increase of height. The main reason for this is because as we go up, the air might get thinner and the landforms might not receive as much heat as the other parts receive. So this is what is known as the normal lapse rate, which is basically which is said that after every 165 meters, 1 degree of Celsius decreases because of the increase in altitude. That is the effect of altitude on temperature. But there is also something called as the inversion temperature, which basically temperature inversion is nothing but the decrease of temperature while we decrease the altitude. The reason for this is, suppose if you're talking about valleys or gorges, what happens is that sunlight does not reach down to the gorges. So it so happens that as we go down, the temperature decreases. So what happens is that when you're going up as well, the temperature is decreasing. When you're going down as well, the temperature is decreasing from the mean baseline. So that is the effect of inversion, and this is the effect of the normal lapse rate. That is the effect of altitude on the temperature. Next, the distance from the sea. The distance from the sea influences the temperature on the land, mainly because the land and the sea are, if at all this is land and this is sea, what happens is land gets heated very fast because of the sun rays. And when it gets heated, the air starts moving up because it becomes lighter. So the air from the sea, the breeze from the sea starts to rush to take this air's place. And hence, the cool winds, basically the sea which is having very cool winds, they come and occupy this land, and hence that gives a cooling effect. And hence, this is known as the effect of distance of land from sea. So, this is how the sea breeze actually influences the land and its temperature. Now, talking about the next segment, which is basically the winds. Winds also influence a lot on the method in which the temperature is functioning, because winds from one or two ends come in and cool down an area, and those areas which have been cooled down, from where the winds is coming, might experience an adverse temperature or adverse climatic change such as rainfall because of its low pressure forming in that area. So that is the effect of winds on temperature. Now, if we talk about the ocean currents also have a great role in determining temperature, because warm currents and cold currents, when they meet, there is the temperature differences occur rapidly, which cause a chance for rainfall or cloud forming, and hence that is the effect of ocean currents on temperature as well. So we have covered latitudes, altitudes, distances from sea, winds and ocean currents as the factors affecting the distribution of temperature. Now we will be discussing about the cold cloud and rainfall. Basically, whenever there is because land is getting heated or sea is getting heated, in that region there is upward movement of water vapor, and this water vapor forms clouds, and once it becomes heavy, if at all there is excessive heat, it might, if you and you see there is enough moisture, there is a very huge chance that it might rain. The reason for this is that the water droplets go up and they become very heavy, and once they become heavy, they come back as in the form of precipitation or rain, and that cools down the temperature because the land gets cooled down, and that is how the clouds and rainfall are affecting the temperature there. Next, we have the slope of the land. Basically, what do we mean by slope of the land? Is basically it affects the temperature in three ways. Firstly, if at all it's a steep mountain, it's a steep mountain on one side like this, and it's like so. If at all the sun rays are coming here, so you might see that this area here is being protected by the sun rays which are coming, which are the mountain which is obstructing the area here. So the sun rays will not hit with great intensity here, and that will reduce the temperature in this location rather than this location, and that is the slope of the land effect on the temperature. Also, we might see that if at all, as we discussed earlier, the normal lapse rate is basically as we go up from this particular point to higher and higher, the temperature will decrease because of the air becoming thinner and so on. That is a normal lapse. Also, if at all we have some gorge here or some valley here, that because of the sun rays not reaching into this particular valley, it will happen that as we go from this point to this point down, the temperature will decrease. So that is the inversion of temperature. Now, talking about vegetation, vegetation is basically what we observe every day. Vegetation, suppose if you look at a garden or something, you might observe that the garden is cooling the area around it. That is mainly because vegetation, because of vegetation, there is transpiration, that is water vapor is released. Also, the oxygen is released due to photosynthesis, which cools down the entire area, surrounding area, and hence that is what is the main effect of vegetation. That is what is the main effect of vegetation, and hence that is how vegetation is affecting the temperature. Next, we have the nature of soil. Basically, this means about the moisture content in the soil. If at all there is any moisture content in the soil, the sun's heat will heat up, they will remove the moisture and will cool down the earth, and hence that will basically, whenever the earth is radiating, it will cool down the surface, and that will cause a lot of relief to the land there if at all there's moisture in the soil. And if there's no moisture, such as places like deserts, that will cause excessive heat. So that is what is the entire those are the entire factors that affect the distribution of temperature. We have seen latitudes, altitudes, distances from sea, winds, ocean currents, clouds and rainfall, the slope of the land, the vegetation, and the nature of soil. So till we meet next time, all the best, keep learning.